Good evening. This is the Devar Torah on Parshas Naso, and this is a parsha that's usually read around the time of Shavuos, either before or just after. This year, just after, and it's the longest single parsha, 176 psukim, and has many different interesting aspects. To summarize the parsha, it begins with talking about the obligations of Levium and helping to transport various parts of the Mishkan and the travels through the desert. It then goes on after talking about the Levium first one. It goes on to discuss two very unusual mitzvahs. One is what's called the sota. This is a case where a married woman is his inclusion with a man who's not her husband, but there are not two witnesses to this, so she can't be found guilty of adultery. Her husband took her up to the temple, Shlaim, and she is given this test where they take water and earth from the temple for the temple, and she brings a korban sacrifice. And if she drinks this combination, Hashem's name's put into it, which also teaches the importance of Shalom Bayis, that Hashem was even willing to have his name erased. And if she was guilty of adultery, she'll die in a very painful way. And at the same time, the man she was with, who was not her husband, will die the same way. It then goes on to talk to the Nazir, subject Nazir, which was somebody who wanted to separate themselves effectively for a minimum of 30 days. And this man and woman had to take on three things. They had to drink, they had to, not cut their hair. Number two, they cannot drink any products of grapes or wine. And thirdly, they couldn't voluntarily expose themselves to a dead person. It was too much spiritual impurity from being next to a dead person. And in fact, if it happened accidentally, the Naziris got aborted. They had to bring a korban's whole procedure. And then he had to start counting the 30 days or 60, whatever days, over again. So it was something to be taken seriously. What did they have to bring a korban? Because it's not the Jewish way to separate oneself from society. One is supposed to be within it, but to maintain their standards, keep the Torah. That's the healthier way to do it. And it then goes on. It tells the blessing that Kohanim give in Eretz Israel every day of the year, virtually, and the people in Beit Knesset and in Chutz La'aretz on certain Yantovs, not every day or every Shabbat. Now, the Parsha then goes on to talk about the dedication of the Mishkan. What happens is the princes give oxen and wagons, which are given to two of the three groups of Levium. The one Kohat had to carry. Then the Torah and other things, they weren't allowed to use wagons. It then goes on to talk about the gifts that all of the princes, 12 Nisim, 12 tribes, brought. Now, it takes up slightly over half the Parsha. There's a very simple question. since they're identical gifts, why is there repetition? And why the Parsha is so meticulous in recording not only what each individual prince gave, Nasi, but totaling them all up at the end. Now, to fully explain this is great detail, this whole midrashing, this whole virtually almost books written on it. But I want to look at one thing. They say, talks about it, gifts of the each of the tribes, which were identical. They were given one, he gave us the offering each time. And they all gave identical gifts. It consisted of a silver bowl weighing 130 shekels and one sacrificial basin weighing 70 shekels, both filled with wheat, meal kneaded in the meal offering, one gold incense bowl of 10 shekels, and then it goes into the korbanot that are to be given. Now, these gifts were all the same. And what I'd like to focus on is the first one, the silver bowl of 130 shekels. What is the significance of the number 130? Now, there are a number of meanings to it. And those gifts had a different meaning for each one of the tribes. And what were they? I'm going to go through some of the tribes, not for all of them. But what is the meaning of the number 130? Now, on one level, I'm going to explain the 130 in terms of these gifts, and then going to go on to explain a deeper meaning, another meaning of the number 130, which is why this number was probably chosen by Hashem. Now, if one looks at the gematrias, this is the gift of Nachshon. He's the first one, tribe of Yehuda, who represents the tribe of Yehuda represents Mashiach, and Nachshon knew that the Jewish monarchs, kings would descend from Yehuda, and his gifts refer to that. Now, for example, let's look at the weight of the bowl on the basin. There's a hint that Shlomo and Mashiach would rule over the land. The bowl weighed 130 shekels. And what's the significance of that? The number of the word oceans, Yamim, oceans, is 100. Adam's own seed of the oceans created by Hashem. What did he do? Was he constructed a copper mikveh, in which the Kohanim immersed themselves for service in the base of the Mikdash. It's in Malachim. And its circumference was 30 amos. So what do? You get 130, which correspond to the seas made by Hashem and Shlomo. Now, interestingly enough, I'll go off the 130 for a second. The basin weighed 70 shekels, indicates Shlomo and Mashiach will rule over the 70 nations of the world. It's Hashem's representative. Now, I'm going to give a couple more. the meanings. Uh, let's look, for example, at the fourth day, fourth tribe. The bull. Who was that? Tribe of Reuven. The bull signified that Reuven uprooted. If you change the letters of Kara, switching the letters, you get I and Kuf Resh. That Reuven uprooted the idea, which Yosef's other brothers want to do, of killing him, and he took that idea out of it. He switched it. Um, he uprooted it. Now, another example we see in the tribe of Shelumiel ben Sudasai, tribe of Shimon. And what is the 130 main in his? Sacred bowl to symbolize the Mishkan, which surrounded the courtyard, which surrounded the Mishkan. Its weight of 130 shekels, alluded to the courtyard's length, 100 amos, plus the tent, 30 amos. So here we have another example. And it was there that the Kohanim would check for the sota, which I explained, and it showed that the tribe of Shimon ultimately would make up for his sin of Baal Peor. Now, that gives you some samples. Now, in the case of eighth day is that of Nasha, and what does his version show? 130. The silver bowl Kara symbolized that Yaakov had uprooted a Kara, the birthright from Reuven, and transferred it to Yosef. And it's also significant, 130. The bowl's weight was 130 shekels. It was the age of Yaakov when he traveled to Egypt to reunite with Yosef. Although Yaakov was so old that his sons had to carry him, he undertook the journey to see Yosef, symbolize Yosef's greatness. And he has been on the tree of dawn. What is his 130 main? Joseph Bull, 130, was the passage dealing with the term Nazir, which I explained, contains 130 words. And that gives a relative cross-section of what is going on. How does 130 fit in? A silver bowl to allude to Adam. Numeric value of the silver bowl, Koral Kesef equals 930. which are years of Adam's life. He gave away 70, so that he would have 70 years. And that's one level. Now, what I would like to do is then take it to a larger area of what it means. And that area is a number of other meanings of the number 130, one of which goes off Adam Rishon. And that has some other significance. For example, the gematria of ayin. Ayin means I. How do you spell it? Corresponds to the letter combination Kuf 100 and Lamed 30. These letters spell the word cow. However, the most profound is the fact that 130 is the Hebrew word for ayin. I. Because ayin is the Hebrew letter 7, gematria 70, yud 10, and on 50, 130. And what is the I talking about here on a deeper level? Shkach Pratis, Hashem's guidance and love of supervising all creation. Now, another one is brought by the Zohar that in 130 years after Adam was ejected, he and his wife Chava were bringing down very negative energies. And what did they do? It brought down a lot of impurities. Now let's see two positive things. One, that having Seis, his son, helped elevate things. And also, we mentioned that Yaakov lived in Eretz Israel for 130 years before he came down. In those 130 years, there helped elevate all the soul sparks that he had lowered. And one or two more. The 5 levels of Chesed, the name Havaya, again, Chesed is the theme I spoke about, Megillus Ruth. Also, Torah represents Chesed. And that's the name of the name, ineffable name. Hashem created all the levels, world, Yud K, Vav K, can be spelled as a numerical value, basic 26, and there's 5 levels of Chesed. 26 times 5 comes to 130. And has 2 other meanings. If you take it, gematria, meaning gematria katana, where we added up to 130. If you knock off the 0, you get 13. 13 represents Chad. Shem's unity represents his love. And 130 is a grounding of Shem's divine oneness. And we see the whole purpose of Mishkan was to have a dwelling place for Shem among the Jewish people. And as we are coming to know a time of Matan Torah, that Shavuos is going to be a key taste of the Parshas Naso is going to be the day after. Shavuos this year. May we all merit to have a deeper appreciation of the Torah, and Parashat Naso is a very good place to start because those great deep meanings one could speak about for hours. And I'd like to wish everybody a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.